Well, hello everybody. It's Brother Todd with your Victory Minute. I hope y'all all having a good day out there. What a beautiful, beautiful day we got. It's even a little bit cool here, so we're going to enjoy it this morning. I do hope you're having a really good day. I want to talk to you something about, Lord got me thinking about a little bit yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, and it kind of filled on out for me this morning. Thought I'd share it with you real quick. Yesterday I was out mowing the pasture with if you're not from country, it's a bat wing mower. It kind of pulls up on the side. Sometimes you'll see them like they're mowing the ditches. Well, anyhow, I was out there mowing the pasture, and I had one little spot to kind of finish up. I had to move the mower through a gate and that kind of thing. And anyway, I went to pick it up. Well, the bolt that holds the wings down, or picks them up rather, one of them had fell out. And of course, caused me all kinds of problems. Old Brother Todd ain't the man he used to be. It's hard for me to pull a hydraulic cylinder out now. It caused me, I worked for an hour and a half on what should have took me 10 minutes. But anyway, so immediately, as soon as that happened, and I seen what had went on, my wing wouldn't come up. Well, I'm the type guy that just immediately, all of a sudden, that's just the worst thing in the world ever happened to me. I've always struggled with getting too emotional. If I'm mad, I get too mad. If I'm happy, I get too happy. If I'm sad, I get too sad. It's just always been that fight for that balance. That's one of the words I want to talk to you about. But anyway, when I got off the tractor and went over there to see what was going on, I looked. And what I had not noticed was that there's a drive shaft in that thing, and it's got a joint in the middle. And it uses what's called a carrier bearing to kind of carry that shaft, okay? Well, that thing had went out. And I didn't noticed it. And it was sitting in there spinning inside the old shell. Well, if you know the rest of what happens, is it'll work through that shell and it'll break it. And when it does, you don't want to be anywhere around that drive shaft going to flopping around and flying around because, it's a dangerous situation. Well, as soon as I looked over and saw that, I was happy about my bolt missing. It was just like that. I was like, oh boy, if I had that bolt hadn't have fell out of there, I might have went over there and that thing flew up in there and hit me on the cab of that tractor or something like that. And so I was going to do this deal on, sometimes things will happen and we wonder why. Well, God's allowed them to happen so that we maybe can see the next step. It's kind of like, you don't know why you broke your arm, but in the x-ray, they showed there was a tumor, and they was able to get it, and you never even had a problem with it, that kind of stuff. And that's what I was going to share with y'all. I had it all rounded up in my head. The Lord just kept messing with me. And, usually when that happens, when I can't come to complete peace on something, I have to back up and look back over what I'm studying on. Well, it wasn't find the silver lining. It was, Todd Peavy, you got to get more balanced. You was as upset about that bolt falling out as you would have been if you'd had a car wreck. And then you turn right around and you're so happy that the bolt fell out because the carrier bearing had went back. And I got to thinking about balance. Balance is something I've prayed for my whole life. And years ago, I figured if I was going to really study anybody close in the Bible, I was going to study Jesus. And so really for a lot of years, even like my Bible reading we was talking about some yesterday, I tend to break my Bible reading down into three categories. The Old Testament, the New Testament, and then the Gospels, which of course are in the New Testament. But I tend to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, which tell the story about Jesus while he was here on the earth. Sometimes Revelation I throw into that because Revelation is really the picture of how Christ looks now and what's going to be happening. But anyway, I'll read a book of the Old Testament, a book of the New, then one of the Gospels. Book of the Old, book of the New Testament, one of the other New Testament books, and then a Gospel. And it keeps me closer to who Christ is because and I said all that to say this. One of the first things I learned about really studying Jesus as he walked here on the earth in his humanity is how balanced he was. You never see Jesus running to anything. He was always on time. He always dealt with things as they were. When if you look close at the life of Jesus, he went through all the same emotions and everything we do, guys. His humanity is the most valid humanity ever lived. Don't sell the Lord short because he was God. He never stopped being God, but he became a man. He was as much person as you and I are. Okay, he overcame the condition. He overcame this condition by loving his Father and following the Spirit. Okay. You know, the best life ever lived was Jesus' life. That's frankly a condemning thing to us, because it tells us, you know what, you can do the right thing. You know, we're made in the image and likeness of God. We get to choose. He just didn't choose sin. Anyway, when Jesus needed to be when he needed to be happy, laughing, those kinds of things, you see him do it. When he needs to be sad, he's sad. When he needs to be mad, he's mad. I love it. People go, look, Jesus never got mad. Well, I'm tell you what, he seemed pretty aggravated when he was whipping on them people in that temple once or twice, or maybe even 3 times. I mean, I don't know how many times it was. And you don't know what I'm talking about, go study it out. John places the cleansing of the temple later than the synoptic writers do. But anyway, but you see him always operating in balance. He said, Brother Todd, let me go back to that mad thing. You're like, Brother Todd, I don't think being mad. Listen, guys, be angry and sin not. There's things in this world that ought to upset us. There's things in this world we ought to get mad about. Christianity is not a wimpy thing. Christianity is not a we'll run all over us and we get to go to heaven at the end kind of deal. We've took what Jesus said when he said turn the other cheek about being personally insulted and turned us all into a bunch of wimps. I don't even know where it comes from. Anyway. Again, man driving people out of the temple with a whip that he set over there and made by hand. So he studied on it. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't an outburst of wrath. That's why we know it wasn't sin. Okay, it was just the right thing at the right time. Balance, balance, balance. When I get off balance, I can look around and find that I am not as close to Jesus as I was. I'll give you 3 things about getting closer to Jesus. I'll give you these 3 things come to my mind. And I know I've been rambling around, so I'm going to give them to you quick. Number 1, the closer you get to the Lord in your prayer, in your study, in your witness, in your fellowship with other saints, everything that draws you closer to Christ, consciously putting in the good, consciously removing the bad, those kinds of things will give you balance. It'll give you balance emotionally. It'll give you balance mentally. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. My personality traits are I'm what they would call a sanguine melancholy, and let me tell you something. They can swing with me from one side to the next. Okay, and it has always been how do you put it? It's just a challenge. It's just a challenge. And mentally, I can swing from one thing to the next. It's the walk with Christ that gives the balance. It keeps me from living in extremes. You know, when it's sad, I want to be sad, but I don't want to be so sad I'm crippled. When I'm happy, I want to be happy, but I don't want to be so happy I'm delirious. You following me? It's balance. It's balance. Not too high, not too low, walking in the situation as it is, not numbed out of our mind. Y'all don't know how many funerals I've done. I've seen people that bless their heart, the only hope they got is how many Valium they can take. And they're there, but they're just kind of through it. That's not how we can't live like that. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live without feeling. That don't even make sense. But I don't want I want the facts of Scripture to control me, not my feelings to control me. Make sense? The closer you get to Jesus, the more balanced you'll get. I'll tell you something else. The closer you get to Jesus, the braver you'll get. I wrote down on my little paper, I said out in there in my office, I thought, if I get closer to Jesus, I'll be more balanced. If I get closer to Jesus, I'll be more braver. I know grammar is bad on it, but you know what I'm saying. Ain't nothing like having, when you're a young dude and you're out acting the fool and everybody's talking trash to each other, there ain't nothing like having the biggest, baddest guy around being on your side, right? You can get real brave Half the fights I ever got into when I was younger, I got into because some of my friends was running their mouth. And so it just kind of drawed me in, right? They knew they was going to have company. They knew they was going to have help. That's what I'm talking about. The closer you get to Jesus, the more you spend your time thinking about who your God is and less what the problem is you're dealing with or the personality that you're dealing with. And you start kind of seeing things like old King David saw him. You got to remember, guys, for 40 days, the children of Israel stood out around that valley of Elah, and they watched a giant. And what happened was they all became experts on the giant. You ought to read the descriptions given of Goliath in that Bible. Everybody in the world could tell David what was going on with that old giant. But see, David, he showed up later. One, that might have helped him a little bit. But two, when he got there, he saw Goliath as an opportunity to something to be conquered, because his attention was on the Lord. You know that. I don't want to go into give you an exposition on 1 Samuel 17 right now, but there were three big opportunities David had to get discouraged. His brother tried to discourage him, his king tried to discourage him, and his enemy tried to discourage him. In every case, David never put his attention on Goliath. He always kept it on the Lord. And so when the enemy was telling him, I'm about to feed you the dogs and all this kind of stuff, and calling him a punk kid and all that, David said, well, you come to me with a sword and a shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of Israel, right? And so his attention was on his God. So he was considerably braver because he knew who was on his side. Think about Elisha and his servant walking around out there, and them, all them enemies are there to kill him. And Elisha, he just kicking along. It don't mean nothing to him. And his servant's losing his cotton picking mind. And you're like, and what did Elisha tell him? He said, he looked at heaven. He said, Lord, let him see as I see. And when he did, he saw that he was totally surrounded. That army that had come against them was totally surrounded by an army of angels. Well, what are we talking about? He said, Brother Todd, I'd like to see that sometime. Well, I'll tell you the truth, me too. But the just shall live by faith and not by sight. But Elisha, his perspective was somewhere else. And if your perspective's on the Lord, it's going to make you more braver. Tell you something else. Just continuing my line of bad grammar. It'll make you more better. That's an old football coach my son and them used to have. You say, more better, more better. More better, more better. If the closer you are to Christ, you know what, guys, it's like hanging out with good friends. There's certain things that I'm going to do, I will not do hanging out with my grandma. I'll give y'all a little, since I've already talked too long anyway. If you've been watching these things, I got saved when I was a kid. And then I was 11. Then I got in school and everything, and kind of the further I went along, older I got, the worse I got. Well, by the time I was in my early 20s, thank God for Misty. She's the only thing that steered me anywhere, okay? But I'm going to tell you something. There ain't nobody could cuss and drink like I could. Okay, now I didn't make no big spectacle of it, but I did plenty of it. And sure enough, cussing. Lord, I worked there at the fire department. There was only one guy in that whole fire department out cussed me. I mean, and bless his heart, he couldn't draw a breath without almost turning your stomach. But even before God really squared me back up, I got all that under control as I talked to the Lord about it. Because one day the Lord reminded me, you don't cuss in front of your mama. You don't cuss in front of your grandma. You don't cuss in front of your little son. That you're deciding when and when not to. And I remember an old saying my granddaddy had. He'd say, in fact, he had it was painted on the wall in the shop. And it said, profanity is a feeble mind trying to express itself forcibly. And what happened was I got to thinking about, you know what? God watches me all the time. And I don't need to treat him worse than I would treat my grandma. What happened? What'd it do? Made me more better. Made me more better. Y'all notice how all these politicians now, they think it's cool to drop all these cuss words? Y'all been catching that? Cuss a lot more now. They're trying to look strong. You never, always know this. Always know this. If somebody's really dog cussing you hard, boys, they're scared to death of you. They're scared to death of your position. They're scared to death. They're afraid you're going to push it a little bit further. Just a little trick. But anyhow, getting off all that nonsense. If you'll get closer to the Lord, you get that balance. You get that bravery. And you get more better. I hope today that you're more better. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week. Bless the Lord with your words today. Bless the Lord, love on somebody, help somebody, find somebody to give something to. Tip too much today. Buy somebody's lunch. Stop by and help out an old friend. Whatever. But just give something to somebody today, connect to somebody today, and pray for somebody today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.